This is a part 2 of a tutorial on how to use Construct 3. In this tutorial, we are going to create a score. You probably want to go to the previous tutorial before you jump into this one. The link is in the show notes to the previous tutorial. Before we go too far into the tutorial, I wanted to tell you two things. First, this tutorial is created under a Creative Commons license, which allows me to remix the content as long as I give attribution. So here is well-deserved attribution to a great tutorial. I placed a link on the screen. An active link is in the show notes below. Also, this tutorial is created with AI software. I am not really speaking these words or have been recorded on video. I am using an AI tool to provide the instruction. AI has mimicked my voice and my avatar. I hope you are still able to find the instruction useful. With almost any game, we want to keep score. So how do we do that? Of course, we create a variable, but not just any variable. We want a global variable. This is because we don't want to keep the score with a sprite in case our sprite is killed. We want a more general variable. This is the global variable. Like an instance variable, a global variable can store text or a number. Each variable can store a single number or a single piece of text. Global variables are also available to the entire game across all layouts. Convenient if you wanted to create a multi-level game. First, make sure you are on the event page of Construct 3. Then right-click in an empty space on the event sheet. The bottom of the screen works well. A dialog box will appear, and one of the items is Add Global Variable. Let's add a global variable. Let's call our global variable to keep score, simply score. The other field defaults are okay. It'll make our score a number starting at 0. Now the global variable appears as a line in the event sheet. Note, even though it appears in this event sheet, it can be accessed from any event sheet in any layout of this game. Now let's give the player a point for killing a monster. In the monster health less or equal 0 event, click Add Action. Then select System. Add to under Global and Local Variables and choose Score with a value of 1. Now there is a score. The score will now increase by 1 for every monster a player kills. There is just one problem. The player can't see their score. To display a score so the player can see it, we need to create a text object. To display the player's score, we'll use a text object. However, we want to display it on a fixed position on screen. Remember, we created the game so that the view follows the player, and we don't want the score to disappear as the player walks away. To fix this, we'll need to add a new layer. To add a new layer, we need to return to the layout screen. Now that we are on the layout screen, you will notice that layouts can consist of multiple layers, which you can use to group objects. Imagine layers like sheets of glass stacked on top of each other, with objects painted on each sheet. Layers can be hidden, locked, have parallax effects applied, and more. Layers allow you to easily arrange which objects appear on top of others. We want our score to display on top of everything else. We want the score to stay in the same place on screen. We will add a new layer to do this. Now take a look at the layer bar. By default, this is in the lower right corner of the screen. Notice layer 0. Right-click in the layers bar and select Add Layers at top. Make sure to add it at the top, not the bottom, because we want the score to display on top of everything else. We don't want it accidentally hidden. When you add it, type in a name. Enter HUD. This stands for Heads Up Display. This is a term commonly used for information displayed on screen. Now make sure the HUD layer is selected in the Layers bar. This is critical because the selected layer is the active layer. All newly added objects are added to the active layer. If we have the wrong layer selected, our text might end up behind another object or layer. Okay, so we have HUD selected. The active layer is shown in Properties dialog box on the left side of the screen. The HUD should always stay in the same place on the screen. By default, layers scroll as the view moves. To keep the layer with the score on the screen, we can use the layer's parallax setting. What does parallax mean? It means the position or direction of an object appears to differ when viewed from different positions. This is similar to when you look through the viewfinder and the lens of a camera. In our case, with game design, parallax allows different layers to scroll at different rates for a sort of 3D effect. If we set the parallax to 0, though, the layer won't scroll at all. This is what we want for our text indicating the score. We want no parallax effect. Now double check to make sure you have the HUD layer selected. Once you do, its properties should be showing in the properties bar. Set the parallax property to 0 by 0. You want 0 on both the X and Y axes. Now we have a layer where we can place objects that appear in a fixed place on screen. However, we don't have any objects on it yet. We now need to add the text object to the screen. Make sure the HUD layer is selected in the Layers bar to ensure the text object is added to the right layer. Click on the background to add another object. Now pick the text object. Place the text object in the top left corner of the layout. It's going to be hard to see if it's black, so in the Properties bar, let's make the score bold. Now let's add italic, and let's make it yellow. Now choose a slightly larger font size. Resize it wide enough to fit a reasonable amount of text. Now let's switch back to the event sheet. Now we need to keep the text updated with the player's score. In every tick event we added earlier, add the action text set text. Using the AND operator, we can convert a number to text and join it to another text string. So for the text, enter score and the AND symbol. The first part score means the text will always begin with the phrase score. Predefined text has to appear in double quotes and expressions. The second part score is the actual value of the score global variable. The AND symbol joins them together into one piece of text. Run the game and shoot some monsters. Your score is displayed and it stays at the same place on the screen. As you can see, no matter where I move, the score is in the same place. Let's now add a continual stream of monsters. We'll create a condition where they can be continually spawned. If we don't do this, once we killed all 7 or 8 monsters, there would be nothing left for our hero to do. Let's create a new monster every 3 seconds. To do this, we need to add an event. Go to Add Event. In the condition, find System. Under the System dialog box, find every X seconds. This item is under the time category. Set the X to 3. Now for the action, go to System. Now go to Create Object. Now go to Monster. And now layer 0, which is the main layer. Set the X to layout width plus 100, and now set Y to random layout height. Note the position is a random place along the right edge of the layout. That's where monsters will come from. We also create them 100 pixels further to the right, so the player can't see them suddenly appear at the edge. They will instead come toward the player from the outside. Now we want the ghosts to kill the player if the player doesn't shoot them first. To do that, go to Add Event. Now select Monster for the condition. Then select on collision with another object. Which object? Why the player, of course, so pick player. Then for the action, pick player. Choose destroy object. Then, to spawn an explosion when the player click on add action, then select player, then select spawn, choose explosion. Now the player will explode if they are hit by a monster, which is only fair since the monster explodes when it is hit by the player's bullets. That's it, we've made a game in Construct. Along the way, you learned some building blocks related to objects, using behaviors, creating events, creating a score, using a layer, and more. These are the building blocks for creating a game with Construct. Now it's up to you to add these elements together to create your own exciting game.